All right, so we're here with Harley Orr from Pop Comics, Pensacola Pop Comics, and we're talking about Mouse. So, Harley, first question: what was your introduction to Art Spiegelman?
Oh, geez. Um, I guess my actual introduction to Art Spiegelman would be Garbage Pail Kids. I did not know that at the time that was Art Spiegelman.
Did you know that, Grover?
I did not know that. That's incredible.
And after that, it'd be Mouse. I think the same as most anybody.
So, Garbage Pail Kids. Tell me that. I don't think too many people know that background.
Garbage Pail Kids were these cards you'd buy in a pack, and they were stickers really, and each one would be like this grotesque little baby, and they would have a silly name like Atom Bomb or Scotty Potty. And yeah, and then when I was in fifth grade, 1986-ish, my principal came on the intercom and said, Garbage Pail Kids are forbidden in school, and they were done away with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what about Mouse? So, did you have an easy transition from that to Mouse, or did you know of Mouse beforehand?
Oh,
or...
no. I mean, so that's 1986-ish,
mm-hmm.
and then I think the first Pantheon collection of Mouse comes out a couple years, right around that time, maybe between then and 89, something like that.
This volume 1 and 2?
Yes, just volume 1, just the first volume. It had been serialized in comics from the late 70s, early 80s, up, especially in Raw. There was a rough draft and something, and then Raw is when it really gets going.
And was he one of the editors of Raw?
Yeah, it's he and his wife, Francoise Mouly, and together. I mean, that's aside from Mouse, that's where their influence lies, I think, in just shaping so much of the aesthetics of comics for adults in the 1980s.
Yeah.
She's now the art editor at New Yorker and has been for like 30 years.
Okay. Right.
That's incredible. So whenever you're going to teach Mouse...
This is Grover Ballard.
Hey guys, my name is Grover. Whenever you go to teach Mouse, what are the first things, whenever you're doing like that first reading for students who've maybe never read a graphic novel, what's the difference between them reading your classic common read and then a graphic novel common read?
Well, I've never taught Mouse. I have taught other graphic novels in the classroom. I was kind of astounded when I was teaching to run into students who had never encountered comics, and I had to teach them, you go to this panel and then you read the words, then you go to this panel and then you read the words.
Was that really common?
Yeah, I was surprised, and
you think it has to deal more with them just not being familiar with comics, or just not being familiar with reading?
Oh, comics. And this was like,
Mm-hmm.
like some of the ones that really stand out to me were the ones that were in my advanced classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, of course these kids are going to get it. It's like, it's like throwing a foreign text to them sometimes. There's also, it's one of those things where it's become hard for me to explain how somebody did it because I've done it for so long, my entire life. But yeah, it's sometimes I have to suggest people to slow down, read the words, go back, look at the pictures, and then maybe read them in conjunction.
Well, I know that you're a really big fan of Art Spiegelman. So what in particular do you like about his work? And then what in particular also do you think students should pay attention to in Mouse?
With his work, it's everything that, his actual body of work is small compared to many of his peers. It's that publishing. It's the stuff that he's done publishing. I think it's more important, in helping shape, bringing a lot of European artists to America, and then just pushing some some artists in the late 70s, early 80s that maybe wouldn't have had as big of a viewership if not for them. And even then, Raw, the print run was small compared to Spider-Man or Superman or something like that.
And that's with his history with the underground comics, and he talks about that in Mouse as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just the publishing that they've done, and since Raw has gone away, they've got Raw Books where they do a phenomenal series of children's books. Graded, different levels for different readers, and again, just using top-notch artists and writers from around the world they're helping to curate some.
I guess I was also thinking, what's one of the most important things that you don't want students to miss whenever they are reading Mouse? As far as it's easy to go through and read just the words, but then you can miss the images. It's easy to go through and just the images, and then you miss the words. But what's something that you think it would be like a dying shame if somebody missed on their first or second reading of Art Spiegelman's Mouse?
Was it my camera movement that tripped you up?
Yeah, all right, hold on. You asked about all right, cut.
No cut.
It's the cat and mouse thing. I mean, it's like so many people so often break it down to the most basic. Oh, it's cats and mouses. It's mice. It's Nazis and Jews. It's so obvious, and it's like, no, there's so much more going on than that. It's extremely important as a autobiographical comic. Those Mouse isn't the first autobiographical comic, but it's one of the early ones, and there's been a lot of good ones since. There's been a lot of bad ones since. Same as anything. But,
well, explain some of that complexity. When you talked about not. People just breaking it down to the cat and mouse, Germans, Jews, good, bad, hunted.
I mean, it's there. I think it's been a while. It's been a couple of years since I've read it, but I mean, some of the things that always stood out to me were the father-son relationship, there's some of the meta stuff that happens in the book. I think I can't remember where you start to see it, but I know by the second book, that very first, it opens up with Spiegelman wearing the mouse mask, and it's tied behind his head. I mean, just like
his father's already died at that point.
Maybe it's been a little bit, but I know that like in that scene, he's like sitting at the drawing boards, but it's right after his mom. It's right after he yells at his dad for burning or for getting rid of his mom's journals. I think, yeah. Anyways, yeah. There's everything that you look for in literature. I think when you're teaching literature, you're looking for value in literature or something like that. All the touchstones are there, but it's just got fewer words. I think it helps to move along so you can when you're teaching. I think you can cover a novel. You can cover a graphic novel so much quicker than you can cover a novel because, the time that it takes to read it, it should be less.
Well, what do you think is in that second part of Mouse when he is wearing the mask? What do you think that's symbolizing?
Oh, geez. I would guess it has to do with...
Because initially he's not, but then that first part he is wearing the mask.
I mean, the idea, some of the things that he works with an identity in there. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read it. I'm sorry. It seems like that's right around the time too where he's talking to his wife and about how he should draw her, whether he should draw her as a frog because she's French or wearing a mask because she converted over. And I don't know. That's a good question for your students.
All right. All right. So one last question, unless you have a question. Okay. Yeah. So one last question is, so what do you think is the biggest challenge for students when they're reading this book, or anybody, when they're reading this book? What do you think is one of the biggest challenges that either students might get, or even as an educator or a comic book guy?
I mean, I think just not to oversimplify it. It's like, I think that's too easy of a thing to do, especially now when people would just want that quick elevator pitch as to what something is, and it's so much more than cat and mice. Like I said, I hope it becomes one of those books for so many people where it's where when they encounter some comics later on in life, they can be like, oh yes, some of these comics do have merit, and it's not just fodder for a blockbuster movie.
All right, cool. All right, so do you have any last parting words for readers?
No, I don't think so. I hope they put Art Spiegelman in the next Marvel movie
as
a cameo.
We'll find out, right?
Yeah.
Now that Stan Lee's gone. All right, thanks a lot, Harley.
Thanks.
Bye.